Today, we're heading into some really unsettling territory. We're looking at a shared YouTube transcript that features 3 stories. Stories presented as real, personal horror experiences.
Right. And our plan is to, go through these accounts piece by piece. We want to understand the sequence of events based on what the narrator shared, of course.
Yeah, look at the details they give us.
Yeah.
And sort of explore what makes them feel so frightening. What impact they must have had.
Exactly. We've got a camping trip that goes terribly wrong.
We do. And a babysitting experience that is deeply disturbing.
Yeah, that one's something else. And finally, a really shocking discovery made at a remote cabin. So different kinds of fear, really.
Okay, let's dive into that first one. The camping trip.
All right, so this one, the narrator's talking about their parents back in the late 80s. They were young, mid-20s.
And they're camping in a place called Cool, California.
Right. They get there late, it's already getting dark, and the weirdness starts almost immediately. Well, the dad's unpacking the truck, and the mom's just sitting nearby, and she hears someone, clear as day, just walking around their campsite.
Oof, before they're even set up. That's creepy.
Yeah, super unsettling. Her reaction, according to the source, was just immediate. She tells her husband very quietly.
And they decide
to leave, right then and there. No discussion, just gone.
Smart. But also, that tells you how scared she must have sounded.
Absolutely. And they do something really cautious. They drive about 3 miles away, but with their headlights off.
Wow. To avoid being followed in the pitch black.
Exactly. A really deliberate move born out of, serious fear.
Okay, so they find another spot. Try again.
Yeah, they set up camp, try to relax, listen to some boxing on the radio, have a few drinks, trying to salvage it.
But it doesn't last.
No. Later that night, the mom's in that state. Half awake, half asleep.
The vulnerable.
And she hears footsteps again. Right outside the tent this time.
Oh, man. And the dad.
Dead asleep. She tries, but she just cannot wake him up. She's hearing this, processing the danger.
But she's alone with it, basically.
Yeah.
And can't alert him. That's terrifying.
And then it gets worse. She hears a voice right outside the tent fabric.
Saying what?
Clear as anything. Here I am. I'm going to kill you.
Oh, my God. No ambiguity there.
None. And then she hears this sound like someone running a knife along the tent. She can hear them walking around, dragging the sound with them.
Chills. Just absolute chills. What does she do?
According to the source, she freezes, totally paralyzed. Mouth open, can't scream, can't move, just pure terror.
That fight, flight, or freeze response. She froze.
Completely. But somehow she breaks through it. With her mouth still open, she just screams out this bluff.
What'd she say?
Jim, grab the shotgun and kill that son of a bitch.
Whoa. Did they even have a shotgun?
Absolutely not. The source is very clear on that. It was pure, desperate invention.
Did it work?
It did.
Yeah.
The dad jolts awake, and they both hear twigs snapping and footsteps running away fast into the woods.
Incredible. What presence of mind, even in terror.
Or just pure survival instinct kicking in. But they know they can't stay. They decide, okay, pack up, leave. Again.
And that's when they find
the tires. Slashed. 4 of them.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah. So now they're completely stranded, middle of nowhere, and they know the person who just threatened to kill them is still out there, somewhere close.
That takes it to a whole new level. They're trapped.
Totally trapped. The source even mentions them trying to use a raft pump to inflate the slashed tires. Just desperate.
How long are they stuck?
About an hour, it says. Then a ranger, just randomly patrolling, finds them, helps them get back to town.
Thank goodness for that ranger.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more, isn't there?
There is, and this is maybe the most chilling part. While talking to the ranger, they find out why he was patrolling that specific area so late.
Why?
There had been murders nearby recently.
Wait.
Yeah, and the ranger basically implies pretty strongly that they were likely the next intended victims. Oh my God. So it wasn't just some random creep, it was potentially a killer.
That's the implication. It just validates everything.
Yeah.
The fear, the threat, it was all horrifyingly real.
Wow. The narrator tried to find info on those murders later.
Yeah, tried looking online, but couldn't find anything specific about those cases. That combination, the isolation, the direct threat, being trapped, and then the ranger's confirmation. It's just layer upon layer of absolute dread.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Let's move to the second story. This one shifts gears quite a bit.
It really does. From that external wilderness threat to something much closer and more unexpected. This is the narrator's own experience when they were 13.
A babysitting job, right, for extra cash.
Yep. Got the gig through word of mouth, sitting for a family, 9-year-old girl, 7-year-old boy.
His parents, what were they like?
Described as a bit crotchety and awkward. They gave a really strict schedule and apparently made some weird, kind of cruel joke about boys showing up, which the narrator felt was pointed, given their appearance then.
Okay, not the warmest welcome. And the kids. Things got weird almost the second the parents walked out the door. The little girl starts singing, "We're All Alone," in this creepy, high-pitched voice.
Okay, red flag number 1.
Definitely. Then the little boy pipes up with, "Let's play rape."
Whoa! At 7.
Yeah. The narrator thinks later he probably just heard the word, knew it was shocking, but still incredibly disturbing for a 13-year-old sitter to hear.
Absolutely, they shut that down, I assume.
Immediately. The kids were apparently difficult for the next hour or so, arguing about TV, wanting to watch South Park. Narrator said no.
Right.
And the kids, they seemed to accept the no pretty easily, just pivoted straight to playing PlayStation, which, looking back, maybe seemed a little calculated.
Maybe. What happened next?
A huge crash from the kitchen.
Oh?
The little girl had broken a glass. The narrator goes in, cleans it all up, sweeps the pieces into a dustpan, dumps them in the kitchen trash.
Standard kid stuff. Maybe. Accidents happen.
You'd think. But the narrator specifically mentions the kids just stood there watching the whole cleanup process with these wide eyes, watching where the glass went.
Okay, that detail feels important now.
Very. So the narrator makes dinner, sandwiches, chicken for the kids, a veggie salad for themselves.
Right.
As they're finishing up, the little boy suddenly starts screaming, "Bloody murder."
About what?
His ankle, he's howling, flopping onto the couch, claiming he's badly hurt. But the narrator says he was a horrible actor, really over the top.
Okay, so obviously faking it for attention.
That's what the narrator thought at first, so they go over to check on him, play along a bit.
And while they're distracted.
The little girl slips out of the room, unnoticed. The boy keeps up his act, repeating the same lines about his ankle until his eyes suddenly flick over the narrator's shoulder. The little girl is standing right behind the narrator with this really weird, perturbing smile. And instantly the boy stops crying, jumps up, miraculously healed.
Okay, that's coordinated and creepy.
Super creepy. But the narrator still chalks it up to them just being weird kids acting out, needing attention. Their main thought is just, okay, gotta get through this. Make the $60.
Understandable at 13.
So they put the kids' sandwiches on the dining table, then go back to the kitchen to get sodas.
And when they come back.
The kids haven't touched their food. The narrator asks, why not?
And they say,
for you to take a bite of yours.
oh no. Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah. That line, the narrator says their heart just dropped. They got this overwhelming gut feeling.
So they check their own sandwich?
Picked it up, lifted the top slice of bread, and inside.
The broken glass.
Broken glass from the trash. Broken glass is how the source puts the realization. The stuff they saw the girl break, watched the narrator clean up.
That is horrifying. What did the kids do?
They were just watching the narrator with these menacing grins.
Grinning.
Yeah. The narrator, totally freaked out, starts shouting at them, this is dangerous, you could have killed me. Trying to make them understand.
And their reaction? Remorse? Fear?
Laughter. They started laughing. And not like nervous kid laughter. The narrator describes it as low and threatening, a sound they'd never forget.
That's beyond disturbing. That's chilling.
It really is. The level of premeditation, the coordination, and then that complete lack of empathy or remorse. Just malicious laughter. It's deeply unsettling for children that age.
What did the narrator do then? They couldn't stay there.
No way. They called their older sister, explained what happened. The sister came over immediately and stayed until the parents got home. The narrator just grabbed their money and left, totally shaken. Never babysat for them again.
I don't blame them. Wow. The narrator reflects on that, right?
Yeah, emphasizes how calculated it was, putting the glass in the sandwich, and how totally remorseless the kids were, just unlike any kids they'd ever met.
It's that violation of trust, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the fear of encountering genuine malice where you expect innocence. Ugh. Third story.
Right. Story number 3. This one involves the narrator as an adult, 25 years old. This happened about 3 years before they wrote the account in 2013.
And they're with friends.
Yeah, narrator and 4 buddies, all around the same age. They're heading up to New Hampshire for a week-long trip, staying at a friend's place, a guy named Johnny.
A getaway home.
Exactly. It belonged to Johnny's grandparents who had passed away. They hadn't sold it. It was pretty rural, isolated. And they hadn't been up there in about a year.
Okay, setting the scene, isolated cabin.
Yep. They leave Massachusetts late, like 3 p.m., so they don't get there till around 7:30 p.m. It's getting dark. The narrator mentions the drive itself on those empty country roads already felt a bit spooky.
I can imagine. So they finally pull onto the property.
And Johnny just slams on the brakes.
Ugh.
Hard.
Why? What did they see?
Two things. The front door of the cabin was open.
Oh, okay. Not good.
And through a window, they could see a flashlight beam moving around inside the otherwise dark house.
Definitely not good. Someone's inside.
Right. The narrator's first thought, dude, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Which seems like the sensible reaction.
Totally. Don't engage. Call the cops maybe, but don't go in.
But Johnny, he does the opposite. He floors it, drives right towards the house, aggressively, and then just lays on the horn for like 10 solid seconds, just blasting it.
Okay, that's confrontational. What happens?
The flashlight inside immediately goes dark.
So whoever it was heard them, knows they're there,
Yeah.
and is now hiding.
Seems like it. Johnny then jumps out of the truck, charges into the house, yelling.
Oh, man.
Risky.
Super risky. The rest of the group, hearts pounding, follow him in. The power's off, so they're all using their phone flashlights.
And they split up. Inside a dark house with an intruder potentially still there.
Yeah, not the best horror movie move, is it? Johnny and one friend, Maddie, head down to the basement. The narrator and the other two friends, Alec and Amir, search the main floor.
Okay, main floor search. What do they find? They check the kitchen, a small bedroom, bathroom, then the master bedroom. The narrator mentions feeling specifically uneasy about checking the closets in there, like a growing dread.
Uh-oh. Trust the feeling.
Seriously, because just as the narrator is near one of the master bedroom closet doors, they suddenly hear Johnny and Maddie screaming bloody murder from the basement.
Screaming, like in terror.
Yeah, and at that exact same moment, the closet door right in front of the narrator bursts open.
No.
Someone flies out, grabs the narrator, physically holds them.
An ambush. While their friends are screaming downstairs. Chaos.
Total chaos. The narrator yells, the other two friends on the main floor react instantly, rush over, pull the attacker off.
Do they catch him? See who it is.
No. The attacker scrambles away, runs out of the house, and just vanishes into the super dense woods surrounding the property. Gone.
Okay, attacker escaped. But what about the screams from the basement?
Right. Their immediate thought is, oh god, there must be more intruders down there attacking Johnny and Maddie. So they all race downstairs.
Expecting a fight, maybe.
Expecting something bad? But not what they actually find. As soon as they get to the basement stairs, they're hit by this overwhelming, absolutely putrid smell.
Okay. Not intruders then. Something else.
Something much, much worse. They get down there and they see 2 dead bodies.
What?
Yeah. And the description is gruesome, bloody, missing limbs, blood everywhere on the concrete floor. The narrator is explicit. It was the single most disturbing thing they'd ever seen.
I can't even imagine. Going from fearing burglars to finding that, the shock must have been immense.
Unimaginable. They all just turned and ran, got out of that house as fast as they possibly could. They realized trying to find the attacker in those woods at night was pointless.
Oh, they called the police.
Immediately. The sheriff's department shows up. It becomes a huge crime scene, police tape, forensics, the whole deal.
Were the victims identified? Did they find out who they were?
Yeah, eventually identified as Indian barbershop workers.
Any idea why?
Yeah.
The motive for the murders.
The narrator says, as far as they knew, the reason was never determined, or at least they weren't told. They also refused to share Johnny's info, understandably, for privacy.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the impact on the friends.
Huge. They apparently didn't even speak to each other for about a week afterwards, just processed it individually. All emotionally scarred, the narrator says, at least for a long while.
How could you not be?
Right. Interestingly, the narrator adds that eventually, over time, it just sort of became nothing more than a story to tell, which is a kind of bleak commentary on how we process trauma, maybe?
Yeah, compartmentalize it to cope. But that initial experience, the sudden violence, finding that scene, is a different kind of horror. Not just being threatened, but stumbling through the aftermath of extreme brutality.
So 3 stories, all pretty heavy.
Yeah, they really are. Each one hits a different nerve, you know, that feeling of being hunted in the woods.
Right, then the uncanny valley horror of those kids.
Exactly. The betrayal of innocence.
And then just the sheer shock and gruesomeness of the cabin discovery. Stumbling into something terrible that was already happening.
What do you think connects them, though? What's the takeaway from hearing these accounts back to back?
Well, one thing is definitely vulnerability. Isolation plays a huge role in the first and third stories. Being far from help amplifies the fear massively.
And even in the second story, The narrator is isolated in their responsibility, right? They're the lone adult figure, and the threat comes from within that situation.
That's a good point. It's also about the violation of expectations. You don't expect a voice outside your tent to threaten murder. You really don't expect 7 and 9-year-olds to try and poison you with broken glass.
Or to find dismembered bodies in your friend's grandparents' basement. It's the shattering of the ordinary.
Exactly. And the descriptions. They rely on those visceral details. The sound of the knife, the kids' laughter described as low and threatening, the smell in the basement before they even saw anything. Those sensory details make it stick.
It makes it feel real, even reading it secondhand. And the lack of neat resolution in some ways. The parents in the first story never found out who it was, just got the terrifying confirmation from the ranger.
The narrator never knew why those kids were like that.
And the motive for the cabin murders remained unknown to them. Real-life horror often doesn't have a clear villain monologue explaining everything, does it?
Not at all. It's often random, inexplicable, and leaves lasting scars. The source mentions the emotional impact, the time it took to process. That feels very true to how people react to real trauma. It's not just over when the immediate danger passes.
Yeah, the slashed tires, the laughter, the image of that basement, those things linger.
So we've walked through 3 deeply unsettling narratives today, shared from that single source.
Yeah, quite a journey into some dark corners. Thanks everyone for joining us for this deep dive.
It definitely underscores how quickly the everyday can become terrifying, doesn't it? How thin that veil of safety sometimes feels.
It really does. Maybe something to think about is how much we rely on unspoken rules of behavior, on assuming baseline safety in familiar situations, and what happens to us when those rules get broken so violently or unexpectedly.
A chilling thought to end on.
Indeed. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.